These all on, Daryl?
The one off to your left, just turn that on.
You guys all ready? Or if you need a minute? Okay. All right, everybody, thanks for being here. Just kind of wanted to give a brief update on the homicide investigation that we are currently working on, and I'll just give a quick overview as well. So the early morning hours of July 5th at about 1:30 in the morning, the police department responded to the 1700 block of North Maple to address gunshots that were heard. Upon arrival, a couple different things happened. One, a vehicle took off from the scene, and two, our investigators, officers that responded to investigate, noted two people that had been shot in a vehicle. One of the victims is deceased. The other one is still in critical condition at the hospital. Since that point, detectives have been working around the clock to hold those responsible accountable for their actions. And it's an ongoing investigation currently, and anyone in the public that has information on this case should reach out to the Criminal Investigation Division. I think it's important to note that this is the second shooting incident that we've had in that neighborhood within a month. And just from a police department perspective, that, you know, the violence that we're seeing in this neighborhood is completely unacceptable, but it's also bigger than the police department alone. It will take everybody working together to help address an issue like this. This isn't just simply a criminal justice issue. This is a community issue, and that's why we're here today, trying to bring this information to light for awareness purposes.
Thank you, Chief. So there's about 80,000 people in Rapid City, men, women, and children, and about 150 police officers. And as you can tell just from the sheer numbers, the police don't stand a chance regulating the criminal behavior of an entire community, or the threatening behavior, or the destructive behavior that takes place in our neighborhoods. They can only be successful with the help of our neighbors, the people who support them, the people who pay their wages. And so it's time for the community to stand up against violence. In fact, it's past time. So tomorrow night, 5 o'clock, we are meeting up at the Knollwood Apartments, affectionately referred to as the ABC Apartments, at 1721 North Maple for a block party, a gathering of community members from within and in addition to from all over town. So we're inviting you to be there at that block party. This neighborhood needs to know where they stand. In the last few weeks, there's been a number of shootings up there. There are 2 victims, one fighting for his life and one now deceased. There are little children who have heard these gunshots and are likely wondering when their turn may come. This is a tragic scenario that plays out. And based on my prior career and also the last 6 years as mayor, I see this continue to play out year after year. We're raising children in neighborhoods where violence is ignored, where violence has become a part of life. And that creates a bad prognosis for the next generation of people. So it's time for us to stand up against violence. Tomorrow night, we will also be working with the Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board to provide the neighborhood with some important resources in mental health counseling, as well as other resources. We are also working with I Am Legacy, a nonprofit organization led by Eric Bringswhite and his friends and colleagues. Also, something that really has put a new face on a law enforcement response here in the last year is Tyler Reed, who is a community liaison with the Rapid City Police Department. You may have seen his Facebook Live video from the first shooting a few weeks ago, and if you haven't, you should go out and search for it. It's on the police department website. And it is masterful because it puts into perspective something that a typical police officer, I think, would be hard-pressed to do. Tyler is not a police officer. He's an artist. He is a community member. He's a father. And that's who he is, and that's what he brings to the table. His take on it is that there has to be more done for the children, for the next generation. We really have had, I think, a major excuse to kind of withdraw from community issues in the last year and a half. We've had the pandemic. Some of us have been scared. Some of us have become angry. We've become politically divided. We've become divided on race, and every other possible way to divide, we have divided. And so one of the absolute worst symptoms of all of this is that we have a lesser degree of community involvement today. So we need you. If you are sitting home, if you're wondering what you do, if you've ever been one of those type of people that have said, if you need anything, let me know. Well, we need something. We need you to come out and stand with this neighborhood on North Maple Street to let them know that there's hope, let them know that there's a better way, and that you're willing to be there for them. And our whole new approach on violent crime is going to center on community intervention. We need to be in these communities that are at risk for violence. And statistically, there's probably no greater risk for violence than there is in that North Maple neighborhood. So that's where our attention needs to be focused at this moment. So this will be 5 p.m. tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 1721 North Maple Street. We need you to show. I want 2021 to become the age of accountability. We need to hold ourselves accountable. We need to hold our friends and our family accountable. And we need to do what's best. And what's best is not withdrawing from the rest of the world. We need to be there for each other. We need to reach out to our family. Somewhere out there are parents who are worried their son or daughter may be involved in a criminal scheme or criminal behavior. There are resources for you. And whether it's the police or whether it's a family counselor, there are places to turn. And we hope to have people at this community event that you could talk to and get some direction as far as where to go. So at this point, I would like to introduce Tyler Reed, who is the Rapid City Police Department Community Liaison, and he has a few words for you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't really have anything prepared in regards to this. I'll just tell you a little bit about what the last few weeks have been like at the ABCs. You know, I work there. I work at the substation there. I'm there daily, and basically my focus, the best help I can provide, is just to build a good relationship and be a good servant to the children that live there, the youth, the next generation. They need a lot from us right now, and they're good kids. They've seen a lot over the last few weeks. They talk to me about it, and there's trauma there. But they're also becoming desensitized to a lot of what they're seeing because they still have to grow and exist throughout it. And we could do better. We could do better as a community if we want to look at each other and recognize that, the community part. There is no other solution. And I'll reiterate what Chief and Mayor said, this isn't a police problem. It's a community problem. And the solution is within the community. There is no other way to solve this. We need engagement. We need people from this community who can come out and, you know, do what we did yesterday. Yesterday, my kola, Eric Bringswhite, and I, and some of his group were out at the ABCs in the pouring rain last night, and we were singing songs and prayer and consoling some people who had lost friends, lost brothers, and there was so much hurt there. There was so much hurt. In the words of another community member who shared about how they felt about it, there was so much pain radiating from these people. And the police department, the city, they can't do all the heavy lifting on this. The community needs to be a part of this, all of the community. And there are solutions there. There are. I promise that. I've seen it in action. Legacy is one of those. So with that, you know, I'd just like to, Eric, do you want to say a couple words? You're good? So I guess I'll leave it with that. Please come out. Please show these kids and these families that we do care, that we are invested in them, and their voice matters and their safety matters. Thank you.
Any questions from the media here today?
Is this philosophy and this being proactive after is this part of the police departments and the city's focus and some of the strategies that you've learned with other law enforcement across the nation?
Well, the question was for any viewers that might be watching this on the city page is the event we're planning in response to what we have been introduced to recently with our consortium of cities across the nation that are going to be practicing community violence intervention? I'd say yes and no. That concept or that program is really in its infancy, but this also has been practiced in the past. You know, no one gave Tyler and the PD any marching orders a few weeks ago prior to my trip to Washington, but they were up there intervening with that community and talking to them. So, but I think this is the future. The future is that we have to direct families, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, grandmas and grandpas, friends, colleagues, to pay attention and to start seeing the signs and intervening in your loved one's life to get them the help they need before they offend. Responding to a crime, investigating, talking to victims, identifying perpetrators, arresting them, prosecuting them, sending them to prison, that is the oldest tool in the law enforcement tool chest, and it is marginally effective. It's effective on the short term, but that's all. So we have to try different things. The time for sitting around really should be over. We should be standing up for these communities, because this community could be your community next. And as Eric Bringswhite was pointing out earlier, and I'll paraphrase, the bullet coming out of the gun doesn't know or care whether you're red, yellow, black, or white. It is non-discriminatory. It hits someone and the damage is done. So we need to try every different approach we can imagine to get to the bottom of it. Anyone else?
As far as, other community engagement efforts that you, the city, and the police department are kind of doing, you just kind of want to explain some of those and what you guys do in efforts?
I'll turn that over to Don Hedrick.
Thanks, Mayor. So a couple different things. Many folks are aware of the work that we do with our homeless population. We spend a lot of time over this last 6 months to a year trying to bring other folks to the point of intervention with us. So besides just a police officer standing, trying to figure out where it would be best for someone to go or how to provide resources, we've actually introduced bringing social workers with us out on the streets. Another thing would be our youth engagement that we have been working very hard with over the last couple years. Folks might be familiar with our Police Athletics League, otherwise known as PAL. It was kind of born of us trying to help out at summer nights with some of the kids that were running around doing things that kids do, and we brought down a couple basketball hoops, and it sort of took off from there. We've been able to engage with kiddos that we would not normally have been able to do without creating those fun experiences. And now we have folks in our community that are able to walk away and have a good experience with a police officer. Lastly, I think there's a lot of room to grow in one area. I think there's a lot of opportunities for mentorship. Really appreciate what I Am Legacy is doing in our community, where they're working with folks that are heading down the wrong path and trying to help them out, trying to steer them into a different direction in life. So I think there's much more room for mentorship here in our community, and those are things that I and the police department, we can't provide that on our own. We need help from mentors in our community to bring that resource. So, thank you.
Questions?
Tyler, guest here could also speak a little bit about, for those who are not familiar with who I Am Legacy is there somebody who would be able to explain to those watching what the program is all about? Would you mind coming forward?
The question is, can we get an explanation of I Am Legacy and what the organization stands for? And so the leader of that group, Eric Bringswhite, will now speak.
Hello. I Am Legacy is short for Indigenous America's Legacy. We're a teaching and learning opportunity in the community. We focus on at-risk youth, system-involved adults, and families who are experiencing a little bit of the traumatic effects of, what has become the predominant youth experience here in our community. A little bit more is we offer something every day of the week, from 8 to 8 every day. And some of our philosophies are, I see all the work that's being done in this community by all the service providers in the community, and it's wonderful work. I think our goals are the same in this community. We want a more safe and just community. But if we're having these meaningful discussions regarding safety and regarding justice, we're leaving out entire demographics out of the discussion. There is very rarely, aside from Tyler, community input. And as we're seeing, policing alone is not working. Our community must meet some of these desires for change at least halfway, at least part way. And that's how these changes will become self-sustaining. That's how our community will become safer and more just. This isn't a North Side problem. This isn't a Native American problem. We didn't create none of this. We didn't ask for none of this. We do not deserve any of this. This is an opportunity for more of us to come to the table and add our voices to these solutions And, you know, these discussions aren't closed. I just got here, you know, we're not law enforcement, you know, we're not city administration, we're not a lot of things, you know, and sometimes we don't even have all the answers. But what we here to share is, with our young people, is some of the things that don't work. We're been there, we were BTDTs, been there, done that. And that's all we want to do is help. I think it's time that our community stops taking sides. We become vested in our community. We've seen what a lack of discipline and unity has brought this community. Let's see what discipline and unity could bring.
Okay, last call for questions. Thank you all for being here. Hope to see you tomorrow night, 5 o'clock. Thank you.